Hello and welcome back to Talam 101. This time we're gonna cover the Running Okizeme that can easily be set up after doing Lighting Halberd, entering RFF, and then double tapping forward for this running Powercrush Shoulder. There are other options Hwoarang can do besides this, so let's get to it. Before that though, we need to understand the conditions and how to activate running moves. So the first one is that you need a large amount of distance. Basically, it's full screen. So if you don't have full screen, you're not really getting any running move. Like you won't get the running shoulder here. If I just double tap forward and hold the last forward, you're not gonna get that here. But if I go into right foot forward and then do it, you get it. So that's the next thing. You need 3 running steps. So there wasn't 3 running steps with left foot forward question mark? No, there was. Because if I press 1+2 as I'm running, then I'll get the jumping tackle or the cross chop, whichever way you want to call it. So it's still considered a running state, just not running enough for the Powercrush Shoulder. So that's what you gotta do. You gotta hold forward or hold your last forward from far distance in order to activate the running animation. Because you're technically still running here. You're on the 3rd running condition, which is allowing you to use running moves like running 3 and running 4, but not enough to do a, cross chop or the Powercrush Shoulder. So that's why adding right foot forward to the equation, whether you're hopping back in right foot forward with back 3+4 or hopping forward in RFF with forward 3+4, right? Then you'll get more steps in order to activate the running options. Speaking of options, we have a good amount. So the first option that you can do is the running shoulder. So if the opponent does block this, you're +13 to +14, usually +13. And if the opponent does get hit by it, and just continue laying down the pressure. There's nothing else besides that on hit and on block. It's just favorable. It's a favorable situation, but there is a little caveat to the Powercrush Shoulder. Is that if the opponent decides to Power Crush, then you can potentially lose because this is a Powercrush Shoulder. It adheres to the Powercrush rules. So you can lose to a Power Crush and you can lose to a Rage Art. So have Hwoarang here, do it again. So I was holding backwards that time, right? Wake up backwards. Now I'm gonna add a tech. We're gonna tech roll left into a Rage Art. And that'll prevent Hwoarang from doing the Powercrush Shoulder. You cannot step this move at all. So even if you wake up and you try to sidewalk to right or the left side, after you tech or after you wake up backwards or you stand up, you straight up cannot avoid this. Like Hwoarang will home straight in. So it's kind of like a homing move already at that point. So I'm waking up, sidewalk, can't. Like he follows me. Now as for lows, I can't really reproduce this on the spot, but just know that there are times where the low will be armored through the Powercrush Shoulder, or sometimes it will beat the Powercrush Shoulder. I don't really understand the conditions yet for that, but there are times it does and there are times it doesn't. But besides that, the Powercrush Shoulder is very advantageous to Hwoarang because, that's a +13, 14 situation. So that's basically a 50-50 and you can hit it with a down 3-4, you can hit them with JFSR, you can go for another 50-50 by going into F4 and then going for, like, if heat's active, you can hit them with a Hell Sweep, you can hit them with, like, a Heat Dash Launcher in RFS back 3, stuff like that. So it's just very, very good to have. The next running option that you can do is the running tackle. So if you just press F1+2, or 1+2 as you're holding forward, right, you'll get this animation, and that's 0 to +1 on block. So very iffy situation. And if it does connect on hit, then you will stay in the same side. But look, you're -14. Earlier when I tested it, it was -10. So basically you don't really have frames to work with after you get this cross chop to connect. It's not really your turn. And if the opponent also decides to stay on the floor, then you will swap sides, just like so. And if you're in open space, this is completely safe. Your opponent can't punish you for that. But if you were at the wall and you swap sides and they wake up, there's a chance where, you could potentially get punished. The next thing that you can do is the step over. So look at that, +6. That's crazy, right? You'd think like, oh, that's a punishable low. No. That's actually a pretty safe low and an advantageous low at that. So this is the one time where you need to tell your brain, I can press a button, like immediately. And if the opponent doesn't block it, right, they get hit, you step over them. Again, -13. No Okizeme, you swap sides though. So like if you weren't aiming to swap sides, then that's not a really good situation to be in. And the last thing, or last 2 things that you can do, because you're already in a running state, you can do running 3, and you can do running 4. And like you can easily time this with like the opponent's wake up on immediate timing, right? So as soon as they wake up immediately, like for as long as you press it at this moment after taking this amount of steps, you'll always catch the opponent as they wake up. Now, of course, running 4, that's a high, so it can lose to certain options, including running 3, like if they wake up into a step. So yeah, something to be wary about. But for as long as like they're thinking about the shoulder and only thinking about doing the power crush, there's a chance you could beat them. And the last thing you can do is cancel your run. Because it's just like, yeah, they're gonna do the power crush, they're gonna do the rage art, so I gotta stop the run and then like do down back 4. And that'll straight up prevent them from doing it ever again. And then, you know, you're just gonna throw them back into the loop of, hey, plus 13, and then like free 50-50. But of course, there is counterplay to consider. So the first counterplay was doing Power Crush and Wake Up. That beats basically all your running options besides canceling your running into doing like down back 4, simply blocking the Power Crush or blocking the Rage Art. The next one is Stand Up. So if the opponent does decide to stand up, right, after blocking or getting hit by like Lightning Halberd or a move that creates a lot of space and you run, there's a chance where it doesn't activate. You see that? Like Hwoarang just stops and like, oh, no Powercrush Shoulder, no step over. So there's a time where that could happen. But more often than not, you can usually get your running shoulder or your step over. Of course, you can't really choose which one. So make sure you're always entering RFF if you want to get that shoulder more often than not. Because if you're just going to leave it up to chance, this could turn into a stomp and this could turn into a shoulder. Not unless you're always looking for the jumping tackle. Then I guess, wake up. If they stand up, it's never going to affect you. The next one is front roll. If the opponent decides to front roll, you're always going to get the step over. Like even if I enter RFF and I go straight into it, I'm always going to step over. So this is one way for them to avoid the shoulder, but they can't avoid the jumping tackle. So like if I run and then I press 1+2 as I'm running, I'll deny their front roll. But of course, that means if they stand up, right, you're going to go back to 0 to +1 instead of going to like plus 13, plus 14. But it is counterplay you can run against their counterplay. Because the only other thing you can do here is to simply stop your run and then down back 4. It's like, oh, I know you're going to front roll. Actually, if you even have the hard read, you can like straight up back 3. But safer thing to do is like run, cancel, and then down back 4. The next thing that they can do is side roll. Either side roll left or side roll right. So we're going to use side roll left here for demonstration. Side roll left, RFF. And you can step over them, or if you go straight to it, like it'll avoid. One of the last few things they can do is to simply do a spring kick. So they do a spring kick here, and I shoulder. I don't even get the shoulder. You see that? Like the spring kick just straight up denies me. Go for the F1+2 or running 1+2 right afterwards. You see how double hand thrust came out? I have to be like deeper in order to get like the spring kick. So if you're used to a specific timing, you may or may not get it. So this can be denied. And the last thing is that you don't even get the step over. Like, if you're trying to get the shoulder or the step over, it doesn't activate at all. So now you're forced to either do a running move, now like slam dunk them with running 3. So your best bet is to simply cancel the run and then punish them accordingly. So you run, cancel, spring kick, and then you get your punish. And the last thing they can do is to not input anything and give you the step over. So if you don't want to swap sides or if you were looking for the shoulder, it's best for you to, again, cancel, back 3, or safer, cancel, down back 4. Of course, it's hard to identify on what option they're doing as they wake up, so you're gonna have to take a step over, or maybe default to, a jumping tackle, right, as you run. So RFF again, run, jumping tackle, and it's just like, okay, at least that one would beat like a spring kick. I would see if they're side rolling. It will beat a front roll. It'll still hit the stand up. You'll probably lose to the wake up power crush or rage art, but that's fine. And then if they stay on the floor, it's just like they swap sides, and then you can use that already and like adjust accordingly. So like, oh, they're gonna stay on the floor, you still set it up, and then you get your down back 4. That way they flip over, and this is 100% favorable Okizeme for Hwoarang. But yeah, that's basically the running Okizeme in like a nutshell. You do want to know which wake up your opponent is doing, and you're really aiming to get this plus 13 all the time so that you can continue pressure. So again, the prerequisite is to create space with a move like Lighting Halberd. You can also do it with like LFS forward 3 if it creates enough space. DF3-4 is what we did back in Tekken 7 to get this running Okizeme, and Peacekeeper as well to a certain extent. You may need to like add that hop back in RFF and then double tap forward so that you can earn more space. So that's everything I know about the running tackle Okizeme here in Tekken 8. Again, I've been Frontier, and thank you for watching.